Yesterday, the Australian Prime Minister posted this tweet stating that today, the government is introducing a bill to make 16 the minimum age for social media. The problem was, it was missing important context. So I wrote a community note stating that this bill will require identity or age verification for all Australians to use social media, including adults. People rated it as helpful, and now more than 5 million people have seen my community note. Let me explain why I did it. The truth is, this bill will not help anyone. It won't make life safer for under 16-year-olds, and it will only make life worse for every Australian. You'll hear a lot of reasons why the bill is a terrible idea, but the one reason that's more important than everything else is this. The legislation requires social media platforms must take reasonable steps to prevent children who have not reached a minimum age from having accounts. That means that to have an account, you must prove that you are over 16. Otherwise, if the platform doesn't take reasonable steps to prove that, they will be found liable and fined up to $50 million. So, how do they check this? There's two methods. The first method is to prevent you from creating an account in the first place. The second method is to block you from accessing any account. In the first method, when you sign up for a social media account, you enter your email or phone, you choose a username, make a password, and it asks for your age. Instagram already does this, but this new bill would require Instagram to add an extra step, where it verifies that your age is actually true, and that you're not just lying. This can be done in a number of ways, but the problem is, the bill, in all of its 17 pages, doesn't specify how to do it. Instead, it places the burden on the platforms to decide how. But the government has revealed suggestions that it's already working on. Those include the new MyGov digital ID, which has just been renamed MyID this week. Another method would be uploading your driver's license, passport, or birth certificate along with a selfie of your face. In addition, the government last week announced a UK body called the Age Check Certification Scheme had won the tender to trial new technologies. Those technologies include biometric facial recognition scans and digital use patterns, which estimate a user's age based on their previous activity. This company has already helped certify other digital identity check providers in the UK. The trial is set to start in Australia this month and would run for 1 year. It would give the tick of approval to private companies doing identity checks. You've probably already used one of these online identity checks if you've ever signed up for a bank account or share trading app online. The problem with social media is that these identity checks would be far more pervasive. In the first method, you only have to prove your identity once. Then, once you've created your account, you're good to go. You can use it forever. But this is really easy to get around. For example, if a child under 16 wants to fake it, they could ask someone older than them, like a sibling or parent, to create an account using their identity. Once the account is created, anyone can use it. So how does the government prevent that? That's where the second method comes in. This method involves verifying your age every single time you log on to social media. This potentially means that every day, or even every single time you open the app or visit the website, it would check your identity. That could include scanning your face or using your government digital ID every single time you access a certain website on the internet. The government has already admitted that this is a real possibility.
Of course, if you're testing to see if someone's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, you're also testing to see, by definition, if they're 16 plus. So if there's going to be age verification, everybody is going to have to go through an age verification process, won't they?
Yes.
Yes.
And that has privacy and data protection implications for literally everybody accessing social media, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we've commissioned consumer research.
This would be detrimental to privacy. Even though the bill says that companies have to destroy your identity data, that's practically impossible under such stringent tests. And the reason that this is worse than, say, verifying your ID for a bank account is that now this links your identity to your online persona. It can now track all of your social media activity, including what you like, dislike, and even your political beliefs. And it gives the government the potential to track and exploit this data if it is linked to a digital ID that traces all of this back to a verified government identity which knows exactly who you are. Today, the Australian Human Rights Commission has condemned this and says that the law should not be passed for these reasons. The government's own report that they commissioned recommends against the law, saying that it would be ineffective and bad for privacy. In her own speech, Communications Minister Michelle Rowland referenced a UK report that showed the harms of social media on children. The author of that report does not recommend a ban, and when asked, the University of Oxford professor said that the minister has misunderstood the purpose and findings of his research, and that the paper does not provide justification for the policy to ban social media under 16. It's clear that the government has no basis for the law, and is pushing it through for ulterior motives based on thin evidence. Privacy experts from around the world all warn that this would be devastating for human rights. But you might have a counterargument. You might think social media has caused mental health issues and tragic suicides among young people. And it's true. But government policy is about making tough decisions and trade-offs. Experts have repeatedly made clear that there are more effective ways to limit social media's harmful effect on children, such as a New York law that forces Instagram to remove addictive algorithms for young people in their feeds without using identity verification. And it works really well. In Australia, the campaign to ban social media was publicly led by two major groups. The first group is called Let Them Be Kids, a campaign that was backed by News Corp, the company that owns Sky News, The Daily Telegraph, and news.com.au. They funded a huge publicity campaign getting parents to make videos that publicly lobby the government to ban social media for kids. And News Corp, unsurprisingly, would love to limit access to social media, given that it's their number one competitor and is killing their monopoly on the news media market. The second group who campaigned for the law is called 36 Months. It's run by Fitzy from Nova 96.9's radio show and Rob Galuzzo, a film producer. Nova Entertainment is owned by Ilria Nominees Television, a private investment company of Lachlan Murdoch, the chairperson of News Corp. Listen, this isn't necessarily a conspiracy. It's just a group of people whose interests don't align with social media, and some of those people have legitimate concerns about the impact of social media on young people. But this is not the right policy for it. It does not mean that we should be willing to give up our privacy for an ineffective policy that will only hurt people. You're going to hear a lot of things about this law, about how it restricts creativity and the freedom for young people to create innovative businesses online, like Leo Puglisi, who founded 6 News when he was just 11 years old using social media. You'll hear how it leaves young people ill-equipped for a digital world where they can't use social media until they're 16 and are thrown into the deep end without any experience or skills. You'll hear about how young people will have restricted access to the news and information they need to stay informed and educated. All of those reasons are valid and important arguments against this bill, but none of them come close to the risk that this law poses to every single Australian and their right to privacy. It cannot stand. So, what can you do? Firstly, you can write to your federal minister and tell them to vote against the bill. I've put a link to that below. Secondly, you can sign any petition you find. I'll try to put some in the description. But finally, and most importantly, you can vote at the next federal election. And let me be clear, while the Labor Party has created this bill, the Liberal Party fully supports it. In fact, the Liberal Party wants the law to go further. Remember earlier in the video when we talked about how a child can circumvent the ban by getting their older sibling or friend to create an account for them, or just use someone else's existing account to log in and view the platform? Well, how could you stop them getting around the ban? There's only one way. You have to limit the number of social media accounts that one person can create. That's right, one account per person. And that account has to be under your real name and use your real face and have no anonymity. That is a real proposal that the Liberal Party actually suggested. If you vote Liberal, you can wave goodbye to anonymous social media accounts forever. And remember, they will always find a way to justify this stuff, like saying how it will reduce phishing and online predators pretending to be someone else to groom children. But that is not worth the trade-off of every single Australian citizen losing their right to privacy online. If you thought the under 16 ban was bad, the Liberal plan is even worse. So the only option is to vote third party. The Greens have already questioned the bill. The video I showed you earlier was Greens Senator David Shoebridge, who was questioning the government on privacy concerns. The Greens, along with other third parties, will oppose the social media ban. Meanwhile, Liberal and Labour both support it. So take action, make your voice heard, and together, let's fight for our right to privacy.